Alright, well, here's my hawk skins. They've been sitting in the curry or the emulsion for over 24 hours now, and they're quite oily. I went ahead and squeegeed these off real good, slicked them with a spatula. This time I just used a metal spatula. Got all the excess moisture and oil out of them, and now I'm going to go ahead and work them until they're dry, and if they feel a little too dry I'm going to add a little more oil, but I got a feeling that there might be enough oil in them. There might be enough oil in this hair that it'll draw through to the flesh while I work these, and I'm just going to use a tablespoon and just kind of work them like that, gently, because these hawk skins are so thin, just to keep them from getting stiff while they dry. You can see that oil in there, and probably soap too, but that emulsion really that oil really soaked into these. I didn't expect it to soak into them so well, but it definitely did. I'm going to go ahead and practice on these hawk skins, and then that'll give me practice for my deer skin when I get ready to do it, which will probably be tomorrow. But they already feel real nice. They feel a lot different after being in that oil. Kind of feels like leather, and well, I'm not sure if it smells like leather, but I'm going to go ahead and get to it. I got a little bowl of canola oil right here, and if this seems to be getting too dried out, I'll just add a little bit with my hand and kind of work it in. These hawk skins are small enough I can kind of just sit here and work them on the footstool while I watch TV. That's what I'm going to do. I'll just use this spoon to really get a nice edge on them. You just got to keep working that skin while it dries so that it doesn't set up hard. And the more you work it, the softer and more flexible it'll be. The less you work it, the stiffer it'll be. And it all depends on what you want to use the leather for. I think it's been maybe an hour, maybe not quite an hour. And I've just been continually working these. I actually stopped a couple times for like 10 minutes because they were, with the hair on here, they're still pretty damp. I think that hair is helping to prevent them from drying out. But they're firming up. It's not getting stiff, but it's just getting firm and taking on a more leather-like feel. Pretty neat. One interesting thing about these hawk skins, since I had these in the emulsion, a lot of oil got absorbed up under the hair, so I haven't had to add any oil. Once the flesh side started to get a little dry, I just take them and roll them up on the fur, on the hair, and just kind of give them a little squeeze. And when I pull them back out, there's a fresh coat of oil on there. And then I just go around and work it. I've pretty much just been working it with my fingers, just kind of pulling, going around the edges and stretching it. and stretching it in the middle. And then I just take this spoon and kind of just go like that all the way down it on both sides and around the outside edges and down the length of it like that. But you got to be careful with these hawk skins because they're really, really thin. And just keep working them. I recently went through and because there is such a large amount of oil in the hair itself, I took this other rag and went through the fur real good like that against the grain. Especially around the dew claws to get any extra moisture and oil out of there. And this fur will lay right back down. Just brush it with the grain and it straightens right back out. Just so you know, this is a back leg and this is a front leg. But I'm just going to keep working these. And I think the way you can tell if they're dry is if they don't no longer feel cold to the touch. Especially if you put it on your cheek or on a sensitive part of your skin, your wrist. But you can see the oil that has came out while I've been working these, and they're still quite oily. And like I said, anytime this starts to feel a little bit too dry, like it might be gonna crack, I just roll it over on itself, and that hair has enough oil in it that it just kind of gives it a nice thin little coat that I can work back in. But you can see it's starting to set up pretty good because I'm starting to get these creases in here, but they rub right out. I've just been going down through it like this. One thing I did notice on this one is the dew claws appear to be separating from the toe. Hopefully that's not the case, and as long as I'm careful with those, I think once it dries, whatever glue is in there should set back up and hold them in. I'm hoping. But like I said, this is just an experiment. Another way to preserve hawk skins, and I thought it'd be worth a try, and it seems to be working good, other than the possibility that the dew claws might separate. A little bit of the hair is slipping right between the dew claws, but the hair everywhere else seems to be fixed on there pretty well, especially for a deer. You know, I don't believe deer are meant to keep the hair on, because deer hair has a tendency to slip as it is. I'm just going to let this run along, and maybe I'll speed it up with my video editor so you can actually see how I'm working this. But I do want to show you one thing. It's pretty neat with these hawk skins. This is kind of interesting. But if I pull this, you can see the dryness, and as I get down here towards the dew claws, where the fur is much thicker, it's still a lot moister down here than it is up here, and you can see, hopefully you can see that it's really beige. It lightens up a lot, and then it doesn't get light down here. I think that's the easy way to tell it's getting dry. So what I've been doing is just taking this end where the thick fur is and bringing it over and rubbing it back into that dry area. And that takes the excess moisture from this end and oil and puts it back on this end. You can see it darkened right back up. I just keep working it. Just keep going around the edges and kind of take it and work it like that. You just want to keep that skin moving so that those glues in it don't set up. And you want to do the whole thing. You want to do the edges all the way to the very center. You want to stretch it lengthwise. You want to stretch it widthwise, and every way in between. And just kind of pull and twist. And I've even been taking it and just squeezing it up. Got to be a little careful with these dew claws. And with this I don't have to worry about the grain layer getting messed up so much. But just kind of gently squeeze it, and open it back up, and start working it all back out again. Take that spoon and work it. I seem to be drying fairly quick now. Like I said, last time I talked to you, it had been about an hour, and it's only been about 10 minutes since then, and they seem to be drying out pretty quick now. And I'll just take this one, if this one seems wetter than this one, and just take that hair side and rub in a little bit of that oil. Obviously, if you were doing a skin without hair, you just have your little bit of oil standing by and dip your hand in it and rub a little on the dry spots, and just try and keep that moisture even throughout it as you work it. You could make a steak that you sit up like this with a rounded top and pull the skin over it like that. But with these hawk skins being so thin, I don't want to do that because I'll probably just tear right through them. Now I'll go ahead and speed it up and quit talking. I'll be honest with you, I think they're about done, really. They still feel damp, but I think that's mostly no, they're definitely still damp, but I bet you I could let those sit and I doubt they would harden up. Maybe they would. I'm going to keep working them. But one thing I wanted to show you, these hawk skins sat in that oak bark liquor absorbing tannins for, I believe it was about 53 or 54 days. And the hair itself hardly absorbed any tannins. The only difference is when these were freshly taken off the deer, this was probably more of a gray or tan color, and now it has a little bit more red in it, but not much. I guess the real difference would be between a summer deer, which has a redder hair, and a fall deer, which has gray or tan hair. It looks more like a summer deer now than a fall deer, which is what it was. But I really don't think that hair took much tanning at all. There you go. A couple hawk skin leathers. And it feels nice. So nice and smooth. I went to a leather preservation website, and I wish I would have kept the name of the site so I could give the guy credit. But I was just Googling around, surfing around, and not really paying attention to keeping bookmarks or anything, and I stumbled on this website, and this is the same guy that mentioned not to use mineral oils to preserve leather, or not to use petroleum-based oils to preserve leather, because of the solvents in them. But he also said that you don't want to use a lot of oil, especially during the drying process, because if you get too much oil on there too quick, it can trap that moisture inside of there, which will eventually lead to rot. And if you're going to do this, you probably want to preserve these as long as possible and keep them nice. That's about the coolest thing since Donkey Kong, if you ask me. I mean, that's very, very supple. I can wad it up in a little ball and it pops right back out. It just has a few marks in it. Those rub right out. It's still got quite a bit of oil and moisture in it though. I can't remember if I showed you this or not. I did make a video called Making Hawk Skins that showed how I got the hawk skins off the deer. But I don't know if I showed a video how I dried them. But this is what I did. I just took them off the deer, and I took some finish nails and tacked them to this piece of plywood and let them dry. Stretched them out real good, tacked them on there and let them dry. Those are two that I haven't done anything with yet. That's rawhide. And then I pulled them off of that board, and they're stiff. And I just laid them out right here on a board, and I dry scraped them to get every bit of fat and meat off of the flesh side. I had to work really hard around the dew claw area because there's some fat and stuff right in there, and you have to be careful around the dew claws or you'll tear through. And I think it took me a couple hours to dry scrape them, and it probably took me under an hour to get them off the deer. And then they sat in the bark liquor for, I think I said, like 54 days. And it's taken me maybe an hour's time to get them worked into that emulsion, and another maybe 2 or 3 hours to work them dry. But there they are, they're finished. So, and really I only did 2, but I had 8. If I would have done all 8, it would have took me about the same time. So I mean, I'm thinking maybe 6 hours total time, maybe 8 hours to do 8 of these hawk skins in a bark tan if you wanted to. And that's being pretty conservative. You could probably do it a lot quicker, really. We have real high humidity in the house because we have baseboard heat, and it's winter time, so the humidity stays pretty high inside the house in the winter, surprisingly. But if you had forced air heat, these would dry a lot quicker, and you'd have to work them a lot faster to keep them from setting up and turning back into rawhide, which is this right here. Right, these things are hard as that board. But these aren't. These are nice and soft and pliable. And the fur looks really good, especially once I fluff them up. It'll look real nice. Well, there you go. There's the finished hawk skins that I bark tanned. Nice and soft. The hair only discolored a little bit being in that bark tan. This is a untanned hawk skin from the same deer, but basically it just darkened up the reds just a little bit, and it took the whites and made them sort of a tan, off-white tan color. But it looks pretty nice, and it feels real soft. This one's still just a little bit wet in the center because there's a thick nap of hair on the back of this leg. It's holding in the moisture. But other than that, they're preserved and worked and ready to be made something into. Before, after. And I just used canola oil to oil them. And it seemed to work pretty good. Talk to you later.